So this is exactly what the title of the video stated. So now with, I don't know how recently of an update, it may have been the most recent, it was either the most recent or the ones just before that, on the updates for Cyberpunk, you can now use AMD's Framegen technology combined with Nvidia's DLSS technology on GPUs such as, but not limited to, this RTX 3080. And what I'm doing here is using the AMD Framegen combined with the DLSS running in balanced mode to essentially completely max out the settings on Cyberpunk 2077. So let's take a quick look at the settings. So we are running 1440p. And then, so DLSS, balanced mode with the AMD Framegen, the ray reconstruction, and then I have everything cranked. Ray traced lighting to psycho, path tracing turned on, all of the lighting. And then I also have the conventional settings completely maxed as well. So let's see. So when I exit the settings, one of the interesting things that you often find with this is it takes it a sec to catch up. So watch this. Oh, that was pretty good. It's pretty common that when you go to do anything that isn't actual in-game graphics, it's pretty common that what'll happen is when you first get back to the game graphics, it will it'll take it a second to like re-enable everything and restart the render. I don't believe that any of this stuff is available for like multiplayer games, like say Fortnite or Apex or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't think it is though. You certainly wouldn't want to use something like this in that use case. This is really more of a single player use case type thing. Now, my opinion on this, because I understand that the quote fake frames is controversial to some people. My opinion is that this looks really good. I think that, where is my motorcycle? Just sometimes it does this. You call for your item and then it never shows up. Try it again. There you are. So my opinion on the upscaling, the DLSS, FSR, Framegen, is that if it's good enough that you have to go looking for it. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys remember, but like you see channels like LTT, Gamers Nexus, where they'll literally have to set people up, like multiple people up in front of multiple computers and cycle them through and be like, okay, can you figure out which one is running this? Can you figure out which one is running that? There was a little bit of frame droppage there. That wasn't the DLSS or the Framegen though. That was the fact that I'm running the settings technically higher than the computer should be able to run. When they originally launched the path tracing feature, it was originally stated that the only two GPUs that would be able to run this feature were the 4080 and the 4090. It was never intended for the path tracing to run on a 3080, and certainly not at this kind of frame rate or even any kind of playable frame rate. But again, yeah, so if you have to go looking for artifacts of the rendering and the upscaling and all of that, it's irrelevant. It's good enough at that point. Like, Like, if you can't actually find clear signs of it when you're sitting at normal distance from the monitor, and you're not actually, oh crummy, now I got the police after me. Yeah, if you can't really see it without looking for it, oh, that was kind of an error right there. Yeah, it doesn't matter at that point. It only needs to be good enough to fool under normal usage. If it's good enough to fool under normal usage, and you have to like do something more than normal usage to see it, then yeah, it just, I don't see any good reason not to use it. Let's go through the city again. I did see a little bit of drop in frame rate. Let's see if we can get anything extra by turning. Let's turn the ray traced lighting down to ultra. Now, I will say, I do believe that Cyberpunk looks good enough to make pretty much anyone happy at anything over, I don't know, anything over medium. I can enjoy the game at low. I know a lot of people are like, no, you can't, it's not fun. But if you have a system that can actually run Cyberpunk at low, it isn't really fast enough to run it at low at your native res, but it's actually fast enough to run it at low at a reasonable frame rate. I honestly think it's playable. It's kind of dumb because a lot of people who talk about how, oh, it looks terrible at low, it looks terrible at medium, it looks terrible at 30 FPS, it looks terrible at under 60 FPS. Like, most of those people haven't actually, like, for the under 60 FPS, most of those people haven't actually seen it run under 60 FPS on a system that can, say, run it at 30 and hold it at 30. If you can actually hold it at 30 and not have it constantly going all over the place, I actually ran it as low as like 24 the other day, and it was actually playable. It's just most people when they run it on a system where it only hits, say, 25, 28, 30, 32, that kind of thing, it's not actually even hitting that. It's not hitting 24 solid. It's spiking to 24, but then spiking down to 9, 10, 17, and then spiking up to 41, and then spiking back down to 24. And that's what those people are actually seeing. And same thing with their low settings. Most people that actually see these games run at, like, say, low settings, for example, they're seeing a system that can barely run low settings, barely run 30 FPS, and barely do both of those things at 1080p. And so a lot of people that you see talk about this stuff, their opinion is falsely colored by not actually seeing it correctly do it. Let's see if I can. No, I mean, this is pretty much ironclad. I mean, I don't believe that there is any assailability to the experience here. It's really good enough. And it's not, like I've noticed on some older GPUs, when you run, when you use the Framegen and the upscaling and all that, like, it makes it good enough to be playable, but it doesn't really make it look any better. I mean, I remember, okay, so you do still see that a little bit. There is still, if you look for it, oh, no, that's not. It's not an artifact. It's just the smoke. It's just the little puffs of smoke. So in the past, okay, there it is. You can see a little bit of ghosting on the back wheel of the bike. And, I mean, I guess you could argue that that's visible. I mean, is it visible? Yes. I just don't think it's visible enough to matter. and I couldn't see it until I actually went looking for it again. I knew it was a lot more visible in the older versions of upscaling and Framegen and stuff. It's not as visible now, and I think it's hidden well enough that like I had to go looking for it, and at that point, it's just irrelevant. So it did just drop down to 44. I wonder why that happened. That's interesting. I wonder why the frame just got... Because it didn't even drop down in the city. Okay, so, I mean, it's not quite perfect, okay? But I still argue that it's pretty good. Just be aware that if you have a 3080 paired with, like, say, a 9900K, for example, you're not going to see these results. It's not going to be this good. You need the 3080 paired with a really fast modern CPU to see this kind of performance on it. It is what it is. I'm fairly certain that the 12700K does not bottleneck the 3080 at all, at least not to an appreciable degree, so... It's definitely interesting because the times that the frame rate has dropped have not been... like situations like this where I go into the city where there's more rendering and stuff. It doesn't seem to be, or when you're like driving by smoke, for example, it doesn't seem to substantially be affected. See, there it goes again. So I'm not sure what is actually... Yeah, see that? Nothing really changed. So I don't know what's causing that slight frame rate instability, but I mean, I guess it's there. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this look, and this gives you kind of an idea of what the actual performance and what the actual experience is going to be, rather than just a bunch of people up in your face telling you fake frames are bad, you have to have native render. Because this is really good. The only unfortunate thing about this is that when you see this running like this, it's even more pronounced when you see this running on an old GPU like a GTX 1080, 1080 Ti, something like that. It really gives you an idea of just where modern games could be, where a lot of high-end games could be, if they put the effort into using these advanced graphics technologies to push the experience a little bit further. If you saw that a lot more, you would see a lot more situations where, you know, stuff like the Steam Deck, handheld PCs, you know, old gaming desktops, you know, old 8700K, GTX 1080 Ti, those systems would be far more viable today if a lot more of the games fully took advantage of these technologies. And it's a shame they don't. Games like Star Wars Jedi Survivor, you know, for example, Hogwarts Legacy, just some of these really graphically demanding AAA titles would just be so much better off if they allowed you to utilize all of this modern upscaling and Framegen and all of that to deliver this kind of experience on arguably older hardware. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed this look at what to expect with the upscaling with a GPU such as the RTX 3080. And thanks for watching.